His expression shifted from joy to concern. "But you don't have to do this alone. We can face whatever comes together." "I know," she replied, her heart heavy yet resolute. "But this is my path now. I have to confront my own fears and find closure for myself." With tears streaming down his face, he nodded slowly. "Promise me you'll find your way back." "I promise," she said, pulling him into a tight embrace. Their connection felt like an unbreakable thread woven between their hearts, a bond that transcended time and space. As they parted, Sarah watched as he began to fade into the light alongside the other liberated souls. "Remember," she called out as he vanished from view, "you're never truly alone." Epilogue. Embracing the light in the aftermath of their battle against darkness, Sarah stood alone in the clearing, surrounded by remnants of shadow now fading into memory. She took a deep breath, feeling lighter than she had in years. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she was ready to face them head-on. With each step she took back toward Birmingham's streets, now illuminated by dawn's first light, she felt empowered by her experiences. The shadows may linger at times, but they no longer held dominion over her soul. As she walked forward into a new beginning, Sarah carried with her the memories of those she had freed, their whispers echoing in her heart, like a guiding star leading her home. And so began her new chapter, a tale of resilience and hope woven into the fabric of life itself, where light triumphed over darkness time and time again. Beckett, each discovery felt like a piece falling into place in an intricate puzzle crafted by betrayal and ambition throughout history. But as she unearthed more secrets, hidden letters tucked away in dusty corners, accounts from guards who had witnessed unspeakable horrors, the shadow grew increasingly restless. It whispered warnings of those who would seek to silence her, forces still lurking within these ancient stones that would do anything to keep their secrets buried forever. Eliza knew she had only scratched the surface. Every answer led to more questions, and with each revelation came an unsettling realization. Some truths were better left undiscovered, yet deep down inside her burned an insatiable desire for justice, not just for her but for all those wronged by history's cruel hand. And so she pressed on, unwittingly awakening forces best left undisturbed. As midnight approached on another foggy London night, a chill creeping through every crack in stone, Eliza stood before one final door, leading deeper into forgotten chambers, long sealed away from prying eyes. Little did she know what lay beyond would change everything, but would it set them free, or plunge them both into eternal darkness? To be continued. The shadow on the walls of the tower. The final revelation. Eliza stood before the heavy iron door, her heart pounding like a war drum. The air around her crackled with anticipation, and she could feel the presence of the shadow beside her, urging her to proceed. She hesitated for a moment, considering the weight of what she was about to uncover, but the thought of Anne Boleyn, of all the souls trapped within these walls, propelled her forward. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open. It creaked ominously, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. The scent of damp stone and decay filled her nostrils as she descended, the flickering light from her phone casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. As she reached the bottom, Eliza found herself in a vast underground chamber. The air was thick with dust, and cobwebs hung like veils from the ceiling. In the center of the room stood an ancient altar, its surface covered in faded inscriptions that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The shadow coalesced beside her, its form flickering with urgency. "This is where it began," it whispered, "the heart of the tower's darkness. Here lies the truth that binds us all." Eliza stepped closer to the altar, brushing her fingers over the worn stone. The inscriptions were in an archaic script she struggled to decipher, but one phrase stood out: blood for blood, truth for truth. A shiver ran down her spine as she realized the implications. "What does it mean?" she asked, glancing at the shadow. "It is a curse," it replied, its voice heavy with sorrow. a pact made long ago by those who sought power at any cost. To silence the innocent, they bound their souls to this place, ensuring that their secrets would never see the light of day. As Eliza contemplated this revelation, she felt a surge of energy emanating from the altar. It was as if the very stones were alive, resonating with centuries of pain and betrayal. She knew then that this was her chance to break the cycle, to free not only Anne, but all those who had suffered within these walls. Gathering her courage, Eliza began to speak aloud, reciting the names of those who had been wronged, and Boleyn, Lady Jane Grey Thomas. More, each of you deserves justice. Her voice echoed through the chamber, and with each name, she felt a shift in the air, a stirring of long-dormant spirits. The shadow hovered closer, its form flickering more intensely. You must do more than speak their names, it urged. You must confront the truth behind their fates, the betrayal that led to their demise. Together, Sarah urged him, we can fight this. With renewed strength coursing through them both, they channeled their collective will against the shadows that threatened to consume them. You don't own us, Sarah shouted defiantly. We are not afraid. The shadows recoiled at their combined resolve for every inch they advanced toward freedom. Darkness shrank back in fear. But just as victory seemed within reach, an anguished wail erupted from below, a sound so haunting it pierced through their souls. Chapter 9. Desperation. What is it? Sarah shouted over the cacophony. It's him, the boy cried out in terror. The one who took me has angry. Suddenly, from within the depths of shadow emerged a figure cloaked in darkness, a malevolent presence that radiated pure malice. Its eyes burned like embers in an absolute void as it loomed over them both. You dare challenge me? It hissed with a voice that reverberated through Sarah's bones. Leave us alone. Sarah screamed defiantly as fear washed over her like ice water. But deep down inside, she knew they were vastly outmatched by this entity, the very embodiment of despair that had trapped countless souls before them. Chapter 10. The final stand. As panic surged within her heart, Sarah remembered Mrs. Hargrove's words about love being stronger than fear, the power to break chains forged by darkness itself. Listen, she shouted at the boy beside her. We can do this. We have to believe we can escape. With every ounce of strength left within them both, they focused on their bond, their shared pain transforming into an unbreakable light that began to push back against the encroaching shadows. Together, they cried out in unison as they channeled their will against their captor. The dark figure shrieked in rage as their light grew brighter, shadows twisted and contorted around it like angry serpents trying to reclaim their master. But even as hope flickered like a candle flame against an impending storm, an overwhelming dread settled over Sarah. Once more, the realization that true freedom came at a cost. Chapter 11. A choice to make in that moment of clarity. Amidst chaos came understanding. Sarah realized that to truly free the boy trapped beneath her bed meant confronting not just his past, but also embracing sacrifice for liberation itself. Let me take your place, she offered bravely, despite knowing what it could mean, a choice that could seal both their fates forevermore. No, he cried out desperately, but there was something resolute in his gaze, now a glimmering spark ignited by hope, mingling with acceptance. If we do this together, he said slowly as shadows writhed around them both threateningly, yet retreating slightly. There, you found determination, we can break free. Chapter 12. Embracing darkness. With trembling hearts aligned toward one another, amid swirling chaos surrounding them both, they took a deep breath together, then plunged headfirst into unknown depths beyond comprehension, itself embracing darkness willingly as they sought liberation from its grasp once and for all. And so began their journey into realms unseen, where light battled shadow endlessly, a struggle echoing throughout Birmingham's streets, far beyond mere mortal comprehension, while whispers lingered on winds carrying tales untold. The story continues as Sarah and the boy navigate through this dark realm, together facing challenges that test their resolve while uncovering truths about themselves along this treacherous path toward freedom. Chapter 13. The abyss. As Sarah and the boy plunged into the depths of the shadowy realm, they were enveloped in an otherworldly darkness that felt both suffocating and liberating. The air was thick with despair, yet a flicker of hope ignited within them, a shared determination to confront the malevolent force that had ensnared them. As she delved deeper into the building's past, Sarah found herself becoming increasingly paranoid. She stopped inviting friends over and withdrew from social interactions. The shadows in her apartment grew longer and darker, as if they were conspiring against her. One night, driven by desperation and fear, Sarah decided to confront whatever was beneath her bed. Armed with a flashlight and trembling hands, she knelt down and shone the beam into the darkness. "If you're there, show yourself," she demanded. For a moment, silence enveloped her before an icy breeze swept through the room. The temperature dropped drastically as shadows coalesced beneath the bed. A pair of glinting eyes emerged from the darkness, locking onto hers with an intensity that froze her blood. Chapter 5. The truth unveiled. Paralyzed with fear, Sarah couldn't look away from those eyes, deep pools of darkness filled with sorrow and rage. A voice echoed in her mind, whispering secrets long buried. "Help me, find me." The words resonated within her as if calling out from deep within her own soul. In that moment, she understood the boy who had vanished all those years ago was trapped beneath her bed, lost between worlds. Determined to free him, Sarah began to research local folklore and legends surrounding lost spirits and hauntings in Birmingham. She learned about rituals meant to release trapped souls and how to communicate with them. That night, armed with candles and sage, Sarah prepared for what she hoped would be a final confrontation with the entity beneath her bed. As darkness fell over Birmingham, she lit the candles and began to chant the words she had memorized. "Spirits of this place, I call upon you, find peace." The air grew thick with energy as shadows twisted around her room. The whispers escalated into frantic cries, a chorus of voices pleading for release. Chapter 6. The ritual. As Sarah continued the ritual, she felt a pull beneath her bed, a force tugging at her very essence. "I'm here for you," she shouted over the cacophony of voices. "I want to help you find peace." The shadows swirled violently around her, as if debating whether to accept her offer or consume her entirely. In that moment of chaos, Sarah caught a glimpse of the boy's face, pale and gaunt, his eyes wide with fear and longing. "Please," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the storm of shadows. With renewed determination, Sarah reached beneath the bed and grasped for his hand. "I won't let you go alone. We'll find your way together." As their fingers touched, a surge of energy coursed through her body, a connection forged between two lost souls, yearning for freedom. Chapter 7. The struggle. But just as hope began to blossom within Sarah's heart, an overwhelming force surged from below. The darkness fought back fiercely against their bond. Shadows writhed like serpents around them, threatening to pull them apart. "No!" Sarah screamed as she felt herself being dragged toward the void beneath the bed. The boy's grip tightened around hers as he struggled against the pull of his prison. "Help me!" he cried out desperately. In that moment of desperation, Sarah remembered Mrs. Hargrove's warning about the boy's tragic fate. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance were shrouded in mystery and pain. She realized that to free him completely, they needed to confront not just the darkness, but also his past. "Tell me what happened," she demanded fiercely as shadows clawed at them both. The boy's voice trembled as he recounted his story, a tale filled with betrayal and sorrow. He had been playing near the building when something had lured him inside, a promise of adventure that turned into a nightmare. "Something took me, something dark," he whispered through tears. "I couldn't escape." Chapter 8. Confronting the darkness. As he spoke, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of empathy wash over her. She understood now that they were both victims of circumstances beyond their control. Together they could confront whatever darkness lay beneath them. The Shadow Beneath Chapter 1. The arrival. The rain poured relentlessly over Birmingham, turning the streets into glistening rivers of asphalt. The sound of distant sirens echoed through the narrow alleyways, blending with the rhythmic clatter of trains passing through the industrial heart of the city. It was in this unassuming urban landscape that Sarah had found a new beginning. Having just moved into a small, run-down apartment on the outskirts of the city, she was eager to leave her troubled past behind. The building was old, its brick facade crumbling, but it offered her a sense of anonymity that she desperately craved. Little did she know, this place would soon become a stage for her darkest fears. As Sarah unpacked her belongings, she felt an unsettling chill creeping through the air. She dismissed it as a product of her imagination, a remnant of her anxiety. The apartment was sparsely furnished, with only a bed, a small table, and a rickety chair. The bedroom was dimly lit, with shadows dancing across the walls as the wind howled outside. That night, as she lay in bed, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She convinced herself it was just the remnants of her anxiety returning to haunt her. But as she drifted into a restless sleep, a sound jolted her awake, a soft, scraping noise coming from beneath her bed. Chapter 2. The First Encounter. Heart racing, Sarah peered over the edge of her mattress, her breath hitching in her throat. The darkness beneath her bed seemed to pulse, alive with something she couldn't quite see. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling. There was no response, only the sound of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears. Shaking off the fear, she convinced herself it was just her imagination playing tricks on her. The next morning, she decided to explore her new surroundings. The streets of Birmingham were bustling with life. People hurried past her, oblivious to her presence. As she walked through the city, she tried to shake off the lingering unease that had settled in her chest. That evening, as Sarah prepared for bed, she felt an inexplicable urge to look under the bed once more. She knelt down and peered into the darkness. Nothing but dust bunnies and old wrappers lay scattered beneath. Relieved but still unsettled, she crawled into bed and pulled the covers tightly around herself. But sleep eluded her once again. The scratching sound returned, this time louder and more insistent. Panic surged through her veins as she sat up in bed. "Who's there?" she shouted, but only silence answered back. Chapter 3. Whispers. In the dark, days turned into weeks, and the scratching continued each night. Sarah began to dread bedtime each time she lay down. She felt a heavy weight pressing down on her chest. The whispers started soon after, soft murmurs that seemed to seep from the walls themselves. They were unintelligible at first, but gradually formed into words that chilled her to the bone. "Come closer." In waiting, desperate for answers, Sarah confided in her neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Hargrove. With a knowing look in her eyes, Mrs. Hargrove warned her about the history of their building, a place once filled with life, but now shrouded in tragedy. "Years ago, a family lived here," Mrs. Hargrove said in a hushed tone. "They lost their son under mysterious circumstances." She paused, glancing around as if afraid someone might overhear. "Some say he never left." The words hung heavily in the air as Sarah's heart raced. She could feel the weight of Mrs. Hargrove's gaze upon her, filled with concern and fear. Chapter 4. Descent into Madness. Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah began researching the history of her apartment building. She discovered that several tenants had reported strange occurrences, scratching sounds, whispers in the night, and even sightings of a shadowy figure lurking in the corners of their rooms.